In this video, we're going to get some practice with ratio and proportion. So copy these 3 questions down, then pause the video, work out the value of the question mark in each of these ratios or proportions, and then resume the video and take a look at the answers and see how you fared. The only thing here is with question 3, you should know that these are proportional. The 2 rectangles that are drawn, or sort of rectangles that are drawn, are proportional. Okay, so taking a look at this first practice problem then, we have a ratio or proportion of 5 to 2 is equal to something to 10. So we can look at this a couple of different ways. What do we have to multiply 2 by to get 10? And it should be clear to you that 2 times 5 is 10. And if 2 times 5 is 10, then we have to do the same operation here. And if 2 times 5 is 10, then 5 times 5 should equal 25. And notice here that we could also solve these ratios this way. And we can represent 5 over 2 is equal to something over 10. And very quickly here, if we cross multiply here, remember top to bottom, we get 5 times 10 is equal to 2 times our unknown. And 5 times 10 is 50, and 2 times our unknown. The unknown is usually x, but it doesn't have to be. I don't know that we'd use a question mark very often, but I'm just doing that so that you can see that that's our unknown. And now to get rid of the 2, to isolate for the unknown, we divide both sides of the equation by 2, and we land up with question mark is equal to 50 divided by 2, which is 25. Now in our second question, made it a little bit harder here. We have a fraction to deal with, right? And we need to solve this ratio. 7 to 10.5 is the same as 3 to what number? So if we have here 7 over 3 is equal to, and you know what, I'm not even going to use a fraction here. I'm going to convert this to a decimal. There's no problem converting 10.5 into a decimal of 10.5. So now 7 over 3 is equal to 10.5 over question mark. And I'm going to show you something here that is neat in mathematics. If I wanted to reverse these ratios, if you don't like solving when the question mark is, or the unknown is in the bottom, right, we could rewrite this ratio and put the 3 first. If we put the 3 first on the left, then we've got to make sure we switch our other proportion and put our question mark first in that ratio. So solving this might even be a little bit easier. And these will give you the same value for the unknown. So as long as you're consistent, the way they're written, usually it's numerator, denominator, but it could be that you put the 7 in the denominator, and if the first one written here is the denominator, then the only thing you have to make sure of is that the first one there is the denominator as well. And so let's go ahead and take a look at this one and solve, because we need to get the question mark by itself. And we haven't done a lot of this, but the right-hand side of this equation says question mark divided by 10.5. So remember, when we're solving an equation, we need to get the question mark by itself. Now, instead of cross-multiplying here, I'm going to show you something else. We need to get this question mark all by itself. Well, and it's nice on the right-hand side here. The only thing we have to get rid of is the 10.5. Well, remember, if 2x is equal to 4, then we divide both sides of the equation by 2 to solve for x. Well, now we have remember this was 2 times x. So to do the opposite operation, we divided. Well, here this says question mark or x divided by 10.5. So does this make sense to you that if you multiply both sides of the equation by 10.5, same idea as dividing here, then we get rid of the 10.5. This is going to accomplish the same thing as cross multiplying. And so here, when we get the math here, we've got 10.5 times 3 divided by 7 is equal to our question mark. And so here we get 31.5 over 7. 10.5 times 3 is 31.5. And 31.5 divided by 7 is 4.5. So the unknown in this case is 4.5. And if we look at our last one, we have these two figures which are proportional. And so we now have to extract our ratios or our proportions from here. And so we just have to make sure that the sides are corresponding. If we have a width of 4, that corresponds to a width of 1. So from this first rectangle here, we're going to get 4 to 9, which is the same as 4 over 9. And that's going to be equal to 1 to an unknown, or equal to 1 over question mark. So we can do one of two things here. If we don't like the question mark, if we don't like the unknown in the denominator, right, we could write the ratio in a different way. We could write from here, we could write question mark to 9 is equal to question mark to 9, or pardon me, question mark to 1 is equal to 9 to 4. And if we make sure that the question mark and the 9 are either both in the numerator or both, as we've written here, in the denominator, it works out to be exactly the same. And one other neat thing in mathematics, if you have one fraction on the left and one fraction on the right, and I've just shown you that this will work, is you can simply invert the left. And if you invert the left, whatever you do to the left-hand side of an equation, you have to do to the right. So you can invert the left and invert the right. And now it's very easy to solve for, and I made it easy here because we don't even have to write this one here, do we? And now the question mark clearly is equal to 9/4. And 9/4 as a mixed fraction, 4 goes into 9 evenly twice. 2 times 4 is 8, and we subtract, we have a remainder of 1. So 9/4 is the same as 2, and our remainder over our original, what we divided by, and so we get 2 1/4. So that should give you some practice with ratio and proportion.